future of healthcare has arrived. Artificial intelligence and machine learning are transforming the practice of medicine and improving patient outcomes. This is Smarter Healthcare with AI. Conversations with Dr. Hassan Tetteh as he shares insights into the healthcare of tomorrow and how we can help create it today.
Welcome to the latest episode of Smarter Healthcare with AI. Today, I am so honored, so honored to be joined by my guest, Dr. Asif Ali, cardiologist, academic leader, MedTech innovator. Now, just wrap your head around those three titles, because when you start to dive deeper into each one of those titles, cardiologist, academic leader, and MedTech innovator, you will know why this is going to be one of the most special episodes of Smarter Healthcare with AI. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you very much for having me here.
So let's start with the cardiologist role. Describe your role as a cardiologist, because you are not just a cardiologist that just sees the patient in the office. Of course, you do that, but you have so many other hats that you wear within the cardiology domain. At the very, very tippy top, in your affiliation with the American Heart Association, and all the things that you do beyond that. So just let's hear a little bit about that.
Sure. I always want to start this conversation with respecting my mentor, who was Dr. Fried Murad. He was won the Nobel laureate in nitric oxide.
Wow.
And nitric oxide is really what keeps our arteries healthy, keeps your blood pressure down. These are things when you exercise, you increase nitric oxide, and if you don't, you decrease it.
Right.
So I always want to respect my mentors and say my journey in cardiology really started with the right mentorship.
Yeah.
And also started with my father, who's an interventional cardiologist, trained under some very famous mentors of his own.
Yeah.
Dr. Denon Cooley and Dr. DeBakey,
Sure.
who of course did the first heart transplants. And of course, great to be talking to another transplant surgeon.
Sure.
So
yeah, we know those names very well.
we know those names very well. And so respecting all of those really gurus and mentors. And so part of my journey being a cardiologist now is really to honor and respect my father,
Right.
his mentors, and my mentors, and bring that together in my daily practice. So yes, I'm a preventative cardiologist, which means I don't wait for patients to get heart disease.
Yeah.
We really start talking about it from the very, very beginning. What
Sure.
can we do? We talk about healthcare, and I think you said it in a lecture yesterday, let's just talk about health.
Right.
And so that is my process, is really start talking about patients' health. We're not going to wait for you to have a heart attack. What do we do to things to prevent it in the first place?
Yeah, absolutely. And very aligned, obviously, with the work you do at American Heart Association. Tell us a little bit about that.
Sure.
Because your role there is quite unique and impactful, to say the least.
Thanks a lot. So American Heart Association is, for everyone to kind of know, I think everyone's heard of that organization.
Sure, yeah.
But if you think about when we do CPR, that all comes from the American Heart Association. When we talk about Go Red campaign, that's women's heart
Right.
health, and number one killer in women is still heart disease.
So
So
heart disease.
these are all these big efforts that the American Heart does to educate and make patients aware of what heart disease is. So what I do with American Heart is take their scientific base and we try to figure out how do we actually implement it through digital technology, through wearables, through health digital literacy,
Mm-hmm.
and making sure that we're inclusive so that it's not just for some, that it is actually encompasses for all. And I'm very big into that arena
Right.
to make sure that ethics, and now the big buzzword is AI.
Right.
Everyone's talking about it.
That's what we're talking about.
That's
today.
what we're talking about today. So, but even within artificial intelligence, what does that mean to a patient? What does that mean to a doctor? Do we have buy-in? And then that comes down to trust.
Right.
And so really what I try to establish is the relationship of trust in these metrics of artificial intelligence on digital wearables.
Mm-hmm.
And as a whole, my committee is called the Center for Health Technology and Innovation in the American Heart. And I'm part of a board called the Health Tech Advisory Group. So we advise the American Heart
Right.
on how do we use these devices, AI, digital wearables, within the infrastructure of heart disease and prevention.
Yeah. to give people a little bit of scope of how many lives the American Heart Association actually touches, and obviously by extension, the work that you're involved in with those two very dominant, important initiatives.
Sure. So first of all, we had our 100-year anniversary of the American Heart Association just a year ago.
Right.
So it's the oldest cardiology division. And what we do is we create what we call guidelines. So this is how we practice medicine, is based on evidence-based medicine. We've heard of that.
Yeah, right.
And that's based on making sure that we have the right publications and the right stories that we're telling within the American Heart to the public. And some American Heart Association is global. So people think that
Yeah.
because we have the word American in it, it only applies to America. We're actually in about 100 countries.
Wow.
And I recently just went to Dubai actually to represent the American Heart Association in a region called MENA, which is looking at the Middle East and North Africa. And so my position with the American Heart is, in that scope, is really not only to be here, but take the American Heart globally, which they are,
Right.
and how do we apply some of that with digital health as well.
So the American Heart Association has a very big impact, not only in America, but beyond. And you spoke a little bit about that. How much lives are we talking about, when we talk about the impact, and of course, by extension, the work that you're doing and initiatives that you're leading in American Heart Association?
Yeah, so American Heart actually establishes, we're both in the
Yes.
cardiology world.
Yeah.
I mean, they establish how we practice medicine. So
Sure.
by extension, it's how many lives have you saved?
Yeah, that's a way. That's a very good way of looking at it. Just not just with the American Heart, but it's the influence of
That's right.
establishing the guidelines of how we practice throughout,
That's
all of healthcare.
That's exactly right.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
they create something called scientific sessions. We both have to
Yeah, right.
memorize all that material,
Absolutely.
and that's what we impact. But globally, there are over 100 countries. So we're not just, American Heart is not just an American. It is the oldest heart society in America. It's over 100 years old. We hit at 101 years actually last year. So it's the oldest cardiology in America. It's global,
global.
and we follow the guidelines.
Yeah.
So it's influenced both you and me and how we practice medicine.
Absolutely. So impact and reach is phenomenal. So cardiologist, academic leader. I happen to be here visiting with you in person. So this is a very special podcast episode. As I mentioned, we're visiting in person here in Houston, Texas. By your invitation, I came to be a part of an amazing conference that you put on yesterday at an academic institution called the Lone Star Health Tech AI Summit. Tell us a little bit about that, and infuse for our audience your role in not only putting that together, but all of the different affiliations you have from an academic leadership standpoint to make this happen.
Yeah, so honored to put this event on. We had over 26 speakers. We had 2 keynotes. You were one of them, and how impactful and grateful we were to you to deliver that speech. Yeah. And so the thought process is, we're in this AI world, and I think you also said it in your speech. We don't exactly know where this whole thing is going. It's a ship. We know the ship has sailed. It's in the water.
It's in the water.
But which direction it's going and who's directing it. And so one part of this Lone Star AI Summit was to get all the right people in the room to start discussing it.
Yeah.
It's not that we have all the solutions, but we need to start discussing it.
Right.
We need to discuss it on a lot of different frameworks. So we created different panels, and we looked at academia, we looked at commercialization, we looked at policy, and we looked at healthcare systems.
Yeah.
I feel these are the 4 stakeholders that need to be in the room to start discussing it, and not siloed into one area.
Sure.
And then around that actually is an ethical framework. And who does AI apply to? And are you included in that rhetoric?
Right.
We call these machine learning or LLMs.
Right.
Are you part of that LLM? Were you trained, or was that AI device trained under diversity? It could be males and females. There's different genders. So we had a real, not fluff, and it wasn't about shiny objects. It was about, let's really critically talk about everything from inclusivity, everything into digital health, health literacy.
Mhm.
Who does it apply to? Digital health literacy, not only for the patients, but also for the providers as well.
Right.
And really create a framework around answering tough questions. Where are we going in this wild west of AI.
Wild West, no pun intended, in Texas. We're in Texas. But the academic sort of institutions that you were bringing together, those that represented those institutions, name some of those, and what was your thought process in sort of assembling this, as you called, you know, stakeholder group of action-oriented individuals to sort of
Sure.
have these conversations?
Yeah, we were really blessed to have people from the East Coast, West Coast, even across the pond, and from the UK and our neighbors in the north in Canada. So
Right, right.
we had people from Brigham, from Duke, from Harvard, of course, is Brigham, all the way over to USC, Stanford,
Yeah,
around East and West Coast, and everything in
yeah.
between. Really incredible, and many of these are my colleagues, and many of them are your colleagues, and it was just brilliant. One thing I heard from all the panelists is what a small world and
Yeah.
how impactful their messages were delivered. But it was true. We wanted to have a diverse group, not only of stakeholders, but from people from around the world to really sit in one forum and say, where are we going with this?
Right.
Are we doing this in the way that is best for the patient? Because I think one thing we all agreed, patient first.
Patient first, right.
And how do we get there though? And
Yeah.
how do we hold everyone accountable in that conversation? And how do we make sure that, you're included and I'm included and everyone we care for included in these LLMs? And I think we had a deep conversation, and wasn't about making superficial talk. It was about, let's
Mhm.
call out what the big elephants are in the room and let's have a conversation. Let's do it directly. And I was really proud of my colleagues and
Yeah.
my friends who stepped to the plate and answered some tough questions around where we're going with this.
And one of the things I really want to just express to you is my deep gratitude for what you achieved with bringing all these stakeholders together. And so, that title and the hat that you're wearing of academic leader was on full display, during the conference, but it's a testament to your entire career. You convened a panel, speakers, and an audience of experts from across the spectrum of the finest and best academic institutions in the world. But you also shared with us your own your own academic journey. And I had the obvious privilege of witnessing all this. But what I really was touched by the most was you had a lot of students and a cadre of individuals that you've been mentoring in this academic environment and this academic ecosystem that you're nurturing and you're bringing along to make, you know, be the next generation of leaders. Tell us a little bit about that. But before you do, tell us about the impact of mentors to you in your career.
Yeah, so mentors is everything. I mean,
You led with that.
I led with it, but we'll go a little bit deeper because, one day I was a first year in medical school, and I was in an elevator it's midnight because, you have those late nights and you're studying. I have a biochem test the next morning. I'm in an elevator who's soon to be my mentor, and it's Fareed Murad, Dr. Murad, who won the Nobel laureate in nitric oxide, like we talked about. Well, he said, why don't you come in my office and let me talk to you?
Yeah.
And he said, well, first he said, do you know who I am? I said, of course I do. Yeah. Like it was a test to make sure I was paying attention. And second, he said, come to my office. And basically what he challenged me and he asked me, he said, what are you doing in your life?
Wow.
And what he said to me was,
Besides being a student, right?
besides being a student, what I really told him is, what am I doing in life? I'm trying to pass my exam in the morning. And he said, really what you're doing. I said, I want to be a cardiologist. And he asked me a third time.
Mm.
And that third time I said, let me be quiet and ask him, what should I be doing? And he said this, he said, look, go out in the world, go get a master's in public health. Don't stop at your MD, go get another degree.
Mhm.
And, I'm sitting there, didn't ask him, but I'm curious why.
Yeah.
And he said, look, you could be a cardiologist, affect thousands of patients, but you're not going to be able to scale it. And you're not going to be able to scale it worldwide.
Yeah.
And go understand what public benefit companies are.
Wow.
How do you actually benefit people? How do you benefit the public? Understand population health and understand health economic outcome research, because that's how you can actually make sure whatever you're doing is actually helping and is cost effective and
Right.
efficient for those people. And that was the right button to hit in me because I don't know if I really understood what he meant at that time.
Sure.
But after I got my master's, I was like, I understand. I understand what population health is. I understand what epidemiology is. understand where. That's how I became a preventative cardiologist,
Right.
because I was like, it's about prevention and education and making people aware,
Right.
not only myself, and then being able to do that for individuals. And so, what the second part of your question was, so first is, getting that mentor who challenged me, and then
Right.
the second part,
And
what
recognize
and
something in you, right?
oh yeah,
That's
that's
very
right.
important.
He saw something in me, and
Yeah.
he's a little laureate. He's a brilliant guy, so he has to pick up very quickly. Like, is
Sure.
this someone who I should invest some time with or not?
And clearly he did.
And he did, and it was great. And another thing he said is, once you do get at a certain level, give back. That's going to be your legacy and influence. Selfishly, I want to make sure that my students, when I get sick, that they're well trained.
Well, that's a very good reason to train them.
So it's a good reason to train them, because one day I'm going to get sick, and I hope they're trained well, that they'll take good care of me.
Sure.
So that's one part. But the real part was, I also recognize that it's not the education system is not fair. It's a little bit stacked. It's not easy to get into medical school,
Yeah.
and there's costs, and there's barriers, and there's more barriers, and there's time.
Sure.
As you know,
Yeah,
you and I've been through it, and
Yeah.
it's a decade of your life.
Absolutely.
Like, your 20s are gone.
They're gone.
I don't even know. I mean, they're gone into reading books and memorizing. But so I realized that it is not a fair, world as far as education. So I wanted to give some opportunities for people who didn't really have a plan B and C. Some people don't have a fallback, but it's so competitive now that you have to have research, you have to have hours in a clinic. So I set up my clinic in a way that not only I'm seeing patients, but at the same time, I can offer my patients the best in research, the best in digital wearables and technology. And I always talk to my patients, I have to keep you alive long enough for technology to catch up.
Wow.
And I wanted my students to understand that too, that ethos, that we need to use every position, whatever we can do to best serve the patient.
Yeah.
And so I created a research institute. It's called Senior Research Institute. We're the ones who organized this Lone Star Summit with our group, Modi Ventures. And but on the research side, the academic side, I wanted kids to really stimulate their brains about asking why, just being curious. That sense of curiosity. If I can embed that in my students, it's going to carry them a long way, because they'll never stop and just give up.
Yeah.
They'll just, curiosity begets curiosity. And one of my mentors did tell me, Asif, the day you're not curious, hang up the stethoscope,
Wow.
because you don't care.
Yeah.
You have to be curious. If you're curious, you're always going to figure out why.
Why?
And if you figure out why, you help the patient. And I wanted to embed that ethos in this research institute to get these kids thinking about the why. And literally, that's how it started. And we've had over 100 students come through.
Wow.
We have students going to medical school, get all sorts of awards. And I empower my students to actually, when we do our research, to not only put them on the paper. You get on a paper, you're like,
Right.
wow, that's a big deal. Circulation is like the top level of
Wow.
American Heart.
Of course, yeah.
But I actually fly them out, all of my interns, to the American Heart. Last year was 6 of them, and I have them present on stage, not me. I have them present, and
It's powerful.
it's powerful, and it was a very interesting effect, Hassan. I'll tell you. I felt I took a lot of reputational risk, because usually it's the attending who,
Sure.
and all of his students and residents and fellows, they just are on the paper if they're lucky.
Right.
If you're lucky,
If you're lucky.
you get your name on the paper. Forget about
Present.
getting a seat at the table, and forget about presenting.
Right.
And I had them present. And what was interesting, that if it was a fruit of that, is a lot of attendings, a lot of people, researchers, a lot of people from the program, from the American Heart, came up to me, literally gave me a hug, and said, I was that student one day.
Yeah.
And I put 2 years of time, and I didn't even get my name on the paper.
Yeah.
Forget about coming to the
Be on the
to
podium.
be on the podium. And so I empowered them to be on the podium, and it made their careers. And
Yeah.
that to me is much more than me getting some plaque or award. I'd rather them get it,
Sure.
but they earned it too. I don't give it as a freebie. They came and did the work. It may have been my idea, but they had to go operation and execute on it and write the paper and get it published. So it's more about empowering people, and I think that's what we're about. I had a lecturer I was at recently, and he said there's two ways to really attain power, and there's two celestial bodies. There's a sun and a black hole.
Mm.
They're both powerful, but a sun emits and all boats rise, and a black hole sucks all of the energy, and it can still be, they're both very powerful, but it's from very different positions.
Sure.
And what I look for in my students is first, they have to be good humans and they have to be suns. And if they have that, then they work with me. And what you saw yesterday at our summit, they're all suns in that room.
Yeah.
Everyone on the panel and everyone in that room,
It was
they're all
beautiful. It was
suns.
beautiful to say. Like I said, your academic leadership was on full display, and what you just so brilliantly laid out in terms of how you came to be your professional self because of a mentor, and what you're giving back is just tremendous. Medical tech innovator. Medical tech innovator. So of course, this is probably the section where, all right, AI, smarter healthcare with AI, we're going to talk about that. I'm going to ask this question because I knew a lot about what you've done in medical tech and the innovation space, but the origin story for how a lot of your early as well as middle as well as later innovative initiatives came to fruition is amazing. So I want you to share that with us. And I want to set it up in this sort of framework. One of the things that we espouse in the Smarter Healthcare with AI framework is this purpose, that personalization, a partnership. And you embodied all of those things. And of course, the productivity and the things that will come from leveraging this powerful technology called AI. So in your medical tech innovating, sort of world and sphere, tell us what was a really compelling story for how you even got into this space. Because clearly you're a cardiologist,
Right.
right?
What's a cardiologist going into
You're
AI?
taking care of patients.
Right.
You've just talked about how you're dedicated to your students. In and of itself, those are 2 lifetimes right there. So you're getting into medical technology. That's a whole nother sphere and domain. But tell us where the center of gravity really emanated from.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. It always starts with asking the right question
Yeah. Being curious.
and being curious.
All right.
That's it. That is it. And what happened is another one of my colleagues and mentors, Dr. John Higgins, and I were looking at why, if you've heard in the news, kids dying playing sports.
Yeah.
And you see that it pops up more often than you know.
Than you'd think,
Than you
right?
think. And it's just sometimes it gets, and it's tragic. And you're in that world. You've saved a lot of these
Yeah.
these young kids
Yeah.
if you can get them on time.
Right.
Time's the biggest factor in that. But we had looked at doing a 4-point feasibility study. So we were looking at this whole idea of like, how can we risk stratify kids who are playing sports from dying? So by the way, the number one cause for sudden cardiac death in kids is a condition where the heart's a little bit thick in a part of area of the heart called HOCM. It's called hypertrophic obstructive cardiomyopathy. You deal with a lot, but just for the audience to understand that, that's the one condition that really can kill a kid. And
And this can happen in a very young age,
at a
right?
very young age.
Yeah.
I mean, we screen from 12 to 18 because they're playing sports at a much higher intensity.
Sure.
But yes, even younger than 12. And it's just something that you can catch. But it's not something that we think about every day.
No.
Because it's like, oh, well, why would a 12-year-old to an 18-year-old, why would they, all of a sudden collapse and die? Well,
Right.
there's a genetic predisposition,
Yeah.
and that can happen. And by the way, it's preventable. And we really wanted to figure out, how tragic it is to have anyone die, by the way, but especially a kid. It really
Especially a young kid.
it can impact a school, friends, and a whole community. I mean,
Sure,
it just
yeah.
really devastates a whole community. So can the ethos of the question, how I got into AI, was being curious about why is this happening? And can we do a study? And we did a study. And I'm here in Houston.
Yeah.
We're in the Texas Medical Center. And so we did a study called HEARTS, Houston Early Age Risk Testing Screening Study.
Wow.
So small acronym, HEARTS,
Yeah.
big name.
Big name.
But we're talking about how do we risk stratify kids from dying from this condition, and not just HOCM, all of the genetic
Yeah,
conditions.
sure. Yeah.
And you can catch it, some of them on a electrocardiogram that looks at the electricity, some by an ultrasound, a little bit by history and physical.
Right.
And so that was our 4 points: history, physical, EKG, and an ultrasound.
Yeah.
And ended up
All
published.
things, by the way, that are easy to do, just so the audience
Easy
understands.
to do,
right?
Easy to do,
Yeah.
very available.
Very
too.
available.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that we wanted to understand, and we published this paper. Well, at that time, Dr. Oz was looking at this particular condition, heard about my research and Dr. Hagen's research, and flew me up to his show, and we did a show. And then after that, a lot of media outlets picked up. And then one of my unfortunate fathers here in Texas, actually out in Crosby, Texas, his name is Scott Stevens. His child named Cody died after playing football. Very tragic. And Scott calls me and says, "Look, we're trying to get a bill passed in the state of Texas. I want you to come up to Congress and speak on the bill." And I did. And the problem was at Congress, they said that, there's too many false positives, false negatives on EKGs.
Yeah.
And my position was, well, that's not good enough. Like, that there needs to be more. The status quo is not working.
Right.
Kids are still dying.
Yeah. And
So-
you're not screening.
And we're not screening. So I'm going to come back every year till we get this bill passed. And I'm going to think about the why. So my question to them was, why no?
Why no? Right.
Why no? So tell me how I get to a why yes.
Yeah.
But tell me why. And it took us a couple of years to get to the why and to the yes and to the benchmark they needed us to do. But believe it or not, it ended up all revolving around AI and digital wearables.
Yeah.
The answer ended up being digital wearables. So what they said is we need 4 things. We need cheaper defibrillators.
Okay.
We need better EKG detection using artificial intelligence. We need better ultrasound detection, so algorithms using artificial intelligence. And we also need to make sure that patients have better murmur detections.
Yeah.
And so they said, you need to create 4 startups. And by the way, they happen to be in digital wearables and AI. So my world of getting into this was answering a problem that I was curious about.
Yeah.
And it was just that technology could solve that problem.
And solving that problem. Going back to the heart of who you are, the heart of who you are, right? Cardiologist, solving a problem, curious, and have someone whose son succumbed to a problem that could be addressed and may have been prevented.
Correct. And may have been prevented.
And
that's the tragic part.
may have been prevented.
Yeah.
So these companies that you just started up, like, tell us a little bit about that. What was that journey like?
Hard.
Hard.
I thought medical school was hard.
It's
Try to
so
go
hard.
raise some money and
Yeah.
prove to people that
And prove to people that this
It's
is
worth
a
it.
solution that's worth it.
Yeah. And what I found is there are different things that are important to different people. You need to find out what's an Achilles heel to someone. And, you don't have to go too far when you're talking about kids.
Yeah.
And you don't have
Sure.
to go too far when you're talking about preventable death.
Wow.
And so I'm really honored that a lot of people stepped up to the plate. I didn't have to ask a lot.
Yeah.
People came up. They said this is an important public health thing.
Wow.
And
And a testament to your leadership, because you have to communicate and convey why this is important,
that's right.
right? And then you had to bring together all the experts. So you spent all your early 20s, as you mentioned, in medical school. You are taking care of patients through your early career. You're involved in patient care. And now you're going to start up.
There's some startups.
It's a startup.
And we did.
Not one, not two, not three, a few of them. And
Yeah.
you're in more and since then.
That's right.
So what would you tell the audience was, the key things that you learned in bringing together these components to make these companies not only viable and successful,
Mhm.
but obviously make impact?
Yeah. So, it always starts with a story.
Yeah.
You message the story in a way that people understand and it resonates. Don't go into technicalities. They don't need to hear percentages. They need to hear we're solving a problem
Yeah.
that could happen to any of you. And it could have been your child.
Wow.
And think about the gravity of like saving a child, that it's preventable. It's not that it's a treatment.
Right.
We can do things upstream. We can do things downstream, but we got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
Like the status quo is not okay.
Yeah.
And in many cases, status quo is not okay.
Yeah.
But someone needs to step up and talk about it and address it and not let it go. Because there was many times in all of our startup worlds, and even in medical school, where you're looking at your books, you're like,
What am I doing?
man, what am I? Because you got all your friends driving fancy cars, and you're in the library.
Yeah.
So,
what am I doing this?
why am I doing this for? But I think it's always, and it's a healthy thing to always say the why.
Yeah.
I think the why, questioning the why, makes you address your own insecurities and looking at the man in the mirror or the woman, whatever gender.
Yeah.
Really taking a deep look and saying, the why. But you come back to these stories of saving lives like you do. I mean, you said it's so compelling yesterday. Taking a moment. You talked about that yesterday.
Yeah.
You made us stand up and say, am I alive or not? And feel it.
Yeah.
And I think that's what pushes all of us. And when you're genuine and authentic, people see that.
Yeah.
And they want to get behind that.
Yeah.
Because you're doing it for the right reasons, right causes. If I always start with the return of value. People always start with an ROI.
Yeah.
Not everyone. The traditional way is like, let me show you how you're going to get an ROI.
Yeah.
And yours, I believe, is let me talk about the return of the value.
Yeah.
It's the value prop first. It's the story of the value. The money will come later. But if you have it the opposite way, I think it's harder to raise money. Sometimes it is easier, but for me, at least, what works for me is talk about the value, talk about the story, and then we can talk about the money.
And I wish I can convey to the audience the value and what impact you have really had. And I would absolutely encourage you to look Dr. Asif Ali up and what he's done. So share with us, and then we'll sort of kind of come to a close here, but share with us how many lives have actually been impacted with the screening and all of the subsequent work that came from that, because you shared that with us, the numbers, right?
Yeah.
It started with a very small study,
right?
But just speak a little bit about that.
Yeah. So we started about 2014. So we'll conclude that 2014 we said go big or go home. That was the name of the bill.
Texas,
House
go
Bill
big or go
76.
home. Yes.
And we ended the bill after 5 years, got it passed. It was the first bill, by the way, in America to screen kids for sudden cardiac death in athletes.
Wow.
And the amazing part was the NFL asked me to go to the Jacksonville Jaguars in 24, not too long ago.
Yeah.
Just a couple of years ago. And while in the state of Texas, we took us 5 years to get the messaging down, to get the startups up,
Right.
and to get the bill passed. The state of Florida in 1 year, 100% of Senate and Congress and the governor signed the bill. But the difference in Florida, they believe so much in all of the screening that we had done before, over 50,000 students that we present in the state of Florida in 1 year, not 5 years. We got the bill passed. But in the special part of Florida, so just shout out to Florida, is that it's an opt-out. So in Texas, it's an opt-in. You have to opt in to get the EKG.
Okay.
State of Florida, I have to screen 300,000 kids next year.
Wow.
So I went to the American Heart and I said, I got a problem. See, I'm here in Houston. We know this phrase, Houston, we got a problem.
Houston, we got a problem. That's right.
But now I have to go over to Florida and try to figure that out. We're going from Texas to Florida, and now we're in 14 states, getting bills passed for
And since you brought awareness to this condition, obviously, that people knew about but weren't really paying attention to in terms of doing a screening for the most susceptible.
Yeah.
How many lives have been?
It's hundreds of thousands
Hundreds of
now.
thousands.
Yeah, and now it's global. So
hundreds of thousands.
Yeah.
Hundreds of thousands.
See, going back to my mentor, he was right.
Hundreds of thousands. Wow. So, Dr. Ali, you put together, so many of these, different dimensions of your career that I think speak volumes about where we're at in this zeitgeist of AI, right? Everyone's talking about AI, and you started from a place of purpose, right? You're a cardiologist, you're taking care of patients, you saw a problem, you stayed curious, and we are all trying to figure it out. I mean, you a testament to that yesterday, and bringing together these masterminds to convene this discussion. Where do you think we're going beyond not knowing where we're going and just really trying to focus and steer that ship in a particular way. But many people are probably asking, what's the future of AI hold? You clearly leveraged it in such a way that you made a big difference and impact a number of lives and brought value to a lot of people and prevented many, many deaths that probably would have been
Absolutely.
that may have been, bad
We get
outcomes.
letters all the time.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
So where do you think we
Yeah.
are going with AI, and what would you say to the audience that's, they're still thinking and how to figure it out and how to make this all work and wherever they are in their professional sectors and domains and et cetera.
Right. So right now, I think where we are today is we're using AI as tools.
Yeah.
We're trying to fit it in, but where we're going is AI first, where it's a whole ecosystem. It's not just plugging it in one cog wheel here, fixing this problem, fixing this problem. But we talk about these words like agentic AI, but where it's just AI first. And by the way, the babies being born today, call them AI natives,
Right.
because they're going to be born in an AI world.
Sure.
And right now we're hodgepodging. I think everyone in their individual sectors are trying to figure out where we're utilizing the tools. I believe the tools are actually best used, believe it or not by you and me. I think the biggest impact is actually to give it to all the people who have to do all the work behind the scenes. I mean, we ultimately we're talking getting all the guts and glory,
Right.
but I have to really go back and say the first responders,
Yeah.
my MAs, my nurses,
Yeah.
my techs. I mean, they're the ones, without them, we can't do our job. We're relying on this infrastructure.
Yeah.
So to begin with, we need to give the AI tools to them
Yeah.
to say, how do we make your lives easier? How do we make the churn and all the red tape much more effective and efficient? At the same time, we should be sitting at the table as KOLs, key opinion leaders, as subject matter experts, because last thing I want to be is the recipient and not being a participant. Because the people who are curious, who are patient-centric first, who are looking out for patients best, should be the ones at least at the table to talk about, the ethics and the framework around artificial intelligence, as well as making sure people are inclusive. But I think where we're going with it, with that said, is that it's just going to be an AI first world, not just plugging it in here and there, but a whole ecosystem that's just completely run. And it's scary to think about the way I'm framing it,
Right.
but that is the reality. The ball's rolling down the hill, or the rocket's already launched, and we better try to hop on, or we're going to be left behind.
Wow. Wow. Well, the brilliant way to close our visit together. And I just want to again say thank you so much for inviting me to be a part of this incredible event that you put together. And I mean, it's going to resonate. It's one of these few conferences that I have to say, I'll give you a shout out. I hope you do it next year, because you got to come. It's just going to be amazing. You have this ability to bring together people that you cannot sit next to someone, you cannot be introduced to someone, you cannot just pass someone by and not have an instant connection and a familiarity with a recognition that we were in this room together doing something really special and meaningful. And the conversations are going to continue well beyond this meeting in this. Yeah, you created a catalyst to go back to our biochemistry days.
That's right.
And our chemistry days of just massive momentum to move forward and well beyond, what you did today and yesterday. And your leadership is very infectious and very inspiring. And I just want to say, as a cardiologist, academic leader, and MedTech innovator, you are supreme.
I'm very honored for that. And to answer your question, I'll do it again next year on one condition:
No.
that you come.
Oh, right. Absolutely.
You come back.
We'll make it happen.
It was authentic and genuine, the conference and your talk, and really appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you so much. Thank you for your kind invitation to be a part of this incredible event, and for visiting with you in person, being a part of the Smarter Healthcare with AI community, and bringing us so much pearls of wisdom and inspiration. As I mentioned, I mean, I'm super inspired by the work that you do as a cardiologist, the work that you do as an academic leader, and certainly as a MedTech innovator, which I'm sure is going to be incredibly instructive and inspirational for our audience. So with that, I'd like to say thank you again to Dr.
Thank you. And it's mutual, by the way. Everything you just said, inspirational.
All right. And thank you so much for joining us with this episode of Smarter Healthcare with AI. We look forward to seeing you soon, and please stay tuned for more episodes.
This has been Smarter Healthcare with AI. If you'd like to find out how to bridge the gap between medical experts and tech innovators and discover how AI can make us healthier and more human, go to tetteh.com. Smarter Healthcare with AI with Dr. Hassan Tetteh is a production of Forbes Books.